A very good afternoon to you, William. Now, if we look at those inflation numbers coming in lower than expected, sitting at 5.32% in September, were those the kind of numbers that you were expecting?
Well, thank you, Mashudu. Personally, I'm happy about the numbers because I was expecting something as conservative as 5.5 to 5.8. So I'm not at all surprised. Of course, there are other players who are expecting lower numbers. You'd realize that much as fuel prices went down, the food prices were still static to a certain degree, and we were still importing food. And so you'd expect that with a 5.5, I would expect something like that. But it's good news, so we are happy.
Good news indeed on the inflation front, but when you look at the GDP numbers coming in at 3.3% in the second quarter, when compared to the second quarter of last year, what did you make of the fall in the GDP numbers?
Sorry. The GDP is growing slowly because, first and foremost, our main market, which is the Eurozone, is still affected by the issues of debt. Secondly, many investors are still worried about the election issues, given the fact that we are having elections around the corner. And much as the systems have changed, there are still issues of legislation that have to be finalized. And so, given that, you'd expect that the economy would slow down a little bit. Considering also that the central bank has been very active in the market, trying to mop out money and reduce the interest rates, and reduce inflation. Sorry, that usually have an inverse result on the GDP.
Looking at some of the results that came out today, having a look at Unga Group reported an 18.7% drop in a full-year profit, really mainly driven by a high cost of grain, and warned margins would be squeezed going forward. What did you make of Unga Group's results? And when you look at the company and the performance of this last year and looking at the next year ahead?
Well, Unga Group remains a company which, delivers on the demand needs of the country, and that said, it is still attractive. However, the performance today has not been anything that we were hoping it would be, given that the grain reserve in the country has been in place. The rains were not bad. So I would say probably it was also pushed up by the high cost of fuel. In the future, I look forward to better results in Unga Group. It still remains something that speculators really adore in the market, and yeah, it's something that I would still look at keenly.
We have pretty much wrapped up the third quarter of 2012. Looking at the performance on the NSE, we've had the NSE posting levels of about 18% year to date. Your thoughts on the kind of movement we could see coming through in the fourth quarter of this year?
Well, Mashudu, I have the unfortunate luck of being here when it's end month.
Yeah.
And the market responds in that direction. So yeah, it's end month again, and the market has a way of responding to end month. But I am very hopeful about next week, considering the results on the inflation rates that have come out, the figures. I'm also quite hopeful because the central bank has been quite active in the market. The currency is stabilized. So, sorry, that said, investors will not be afraid to come into the market and invest, especially the foreign investors who have been active in the market in the last 2 weeks or so.
We have seen a number of foreign investors quite active in the market. Looking at some of the gainers in today's trading session, we had Williamson's Tea as well as eGuards. Williamson's Tea up 8.91%. What could have been the major driver behind that move?
Williamson Tea the tea industry itself has been said to be highly undervalued. Williamson Tea still remains something that you'd want to look at if you want to store value. But I would say that right now the factors around it would probably be speculative and nothing fundamental.
Well, that's where we have to leave it. Thank you so much for joining us. So, William, that was William Odhiambo, Managing Consultant at Elim Consulting.